Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 44. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your continued support. My guest for this episode is the frontman and singer for the band Riot Act. Riot Act got their start in the late 70s and early 80s as the band Riot. As the years progressed, the band fractured. Some members continued on as Riot, other members did other projects. I was going to give a whole history lesson on how Riot Act came to be, but it is rather complicated, so I'm going to refer you to Wikipedia. The simplest version of this is original members of Riot are in Riot Act, and they're also in Riot V. Riot V is the one fronted by Todd Michael Hall on vocals, and Riot Act is the one fronted by my guest today, Don Chaffin. This was a pretty in-depth interview, and I got to know a lot about Riot Act and their beginnings and where they're going, and of course about the man himself. So without further ado, here's Don Chaffin of Riot Act. If I knew absolutely nothing about Riot Act, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Well, I would say Riot Act has a lot of the early Riot mix, obviously with Rick Ventura on the guitar, and obviously Lou, who passed away. If you were to take those early Riot songs and put them in a little together with like Little Rival Sons, a little modern day, elements like that, I'd say that you would be somewhere right in the middle of our album there.
That sounds about right. And maybe we can clear up a little bit about Riot Act, Riot V, and early Riot and how that all kind of plays out today.
Yeah, good luck with that. No. Yeah, no, it's I'm new to the scene on this situation. But obviously there's Riot V, and they're great guys too, great band. And from what I understand, they do more of the heavier side of the Riot material. And I think it's Thunder Steel and Forward, where when we originally started Riot Act, it was with Lou Cabarrus, God rest his soul, and Rick Ventura, which were from the first three records, the very, beginning of Riot. So it has a little more of the classic rock sound, if you would. So we knew that going forward, it'd be all, I don't know if comparisons is the right word, but everybody trying to, pigeonhole you and tell you what you sound like, or you sound like this. But truthfully, I'd have to say ours is a little more leaning toward that classic rock sound, which really doesn't infringe on what they're doing.
So everybody gets along.
Yeah, everybody gets along. Actually, Mike Flint's was kind enough to play on our album on that 49er. He has a lead on there for us. So that's pretty awesome. I don't know if anybody knows that yet. Well, the album just came out, 3 days ago.
Yeah, exactly. How did Riot Act come together? From what I understand, it started sometime in 2020, maybe 2019, and you could take it from there.
Right. Started, they were already together. It was Lou, Rick, Paul, and Claudio. And they reached out to a friend of mine, Nick Traiani, to see if that I'd be interested in actually auditioning for them. And so we got together, I believe it was, like you said, 2019. Audition went great. They called me back a few weeks later, and we really got right into it. I mean, before you knew it, we were rehearsing for the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame, and we got a chance to play out there and on the award show and stuff. And so we were thrown right into it. It wasn't like there wasn't a lot of downtime. And as soon as we got home, we were preparing for the tour to Greece that we were set to go on. Obviously, I think a couple of days before we were going to go, they actually shut the airports down, and that was the beginning of the pandemic. And from there, unfortunately, our band leader and dear brother Lou actually passed away from COVID, and which was very sad. And at that point, I don't think we had any interest in going any further at that point. It was just too heartbreaking, so that, but after a while, after a couple of months, 6 months went by, I think, we just realized that the last thing Lou would want, would be us to quit. So so we kept it going, and before you know it, we were recording new material, which we hadn't done at the beginning. At the beginning, we were just doing the Riot classics. We were building the whole band around the Riot classic songs from those first 3 albums. So when we did start reconvening, the originals came into the scene, and subsequently our manager, Giles Lavery, got us signed to a record label, and we ended up with the 22-song album, as you see, that's just been released.
And you mentioned Lou Cavaris passed away from COVID in 2020. He still appears on this album, though, correct?
Yes, actually, yeah, that's great for everybody to know too, because I'm happy that you brought that up. But Lou, all of his, and I remember, God bless him, he pushed at the very beginning. We must have recorded, I don't know how many Riot songs, but we recorded a ton of them. Most of them came out on this album. And I'm like, oh, we only need like 4 or 5, right, for an EP. Let's just get it on. And he's like, no, let's do more. We're like, no, we don't need more. So, but we did them. But then they sat in the hard drive. And sure enough, when everything happened, and we were asked to be on the new label and what have you, they did ask us for those classic Riot songs. And thanks to Lou, there was a ton of them sitting in the hard drive waiting to be completed. We just popped 12 of them out here on the brand new album, Closer to the Flames. So excited that, and Lou is on all of the rhythm tracks for all of those songs with Rick, obviously. And I believe he did, he and Rick split the leads, I think, on every song. And I think 60 or 70% of those songs, those 12 songs, Lou did split the leads with Rick. A few of them he didn't get to, unfortunately. But like I said, Mike Flintz was kind enough to join us on the 49er solo. So Rick is playing lead on all of them, obviously, and Lou is playing lead on most of them. And the ones that he didn't, we got a little help, from Mike Flintz and what have you. And then Rick did the others.
Excellent. And as you mentioned, Close to the Flame is out now. Let's talk a little bit about the songs that you guys have released so far. If you want to talk a little bit behind the story of Wanted, if there is a story.
I don't know about so much of a story with the lyrics as I do know that was the first song that we actually, as a band, said, okay, let's start doing an original. We didn't know what was going to come out because, again, the band was built on doing the classic Riot songs. So this was our first work in progress. And Rick had sent me, riffs prior in an email and what have you. Rick's guitar playing definitely calls out to my type of vocal and the inspiration that I have musically to write. And I have to say, it just fell together. The entire song just fell together. And to be the first song, when you never know what's going to happen when you put a bunch of guys in a room and start writing together. Is this even going to work? At that point we were doing Riot songs that had already worked. You know what I'm saying? So for us, it's like, this is a little bit of an experiment. And sure enough, it's one of our favorite tracks on the record. And it was the one that got us the record deal. So, and actually the first music video, as you see. So for a first, outing, if you would, for a bunch of songwriters to get together, we're quite pleased with it.
Well, my favorite song is Stand or Fall. And as soon as I heard that on the record, I'm like, wow, this is a really catchy song. I got to make note of this one.
Yeah. That's a good one, right? Has a little bit of the cult AC/DC kind of thing going on. Yeah, it's really awesome. Did you see the video for that one?
I haven't seen the video yet.
Oh, you're going to love it even more than that. You're going to love it.
Well, speaking of videos, don't you have a studio that makes music videos?
See what happens? Now you gave it away. Yes. In-house, we have a great studio. It's called D-City Studios, and it's the home of Riot Act. So basically, we do the recordings there. We do the music videos. We do the interviews there. I don't know if you've seen some of those that we just did, but so it's our home for the creation process, and certainly helps when it comes to music videos. So we don't do all the music videos on site so much because, as you've seen in Wanted, we went up to the Art Factory up in New Jersey, and And then for Stand or Fall, we did that one on site. And we have a brand new one, Closer to the Flame, which is just going to really blow your mind, I promise. That certainly was not done on, I won't give it away, but that one was not done on site. And you'll see why when it comes out.
What do you think of music videos today? Because a lot of it is either a lyric video or it's green screen with the band in front of the green screen and then the record company throws something behind it.
Right. Well, no green screen on ours yet. So, no, we're doing more a little on location. Again, we're from New York, so we're trying to throw that theme in there a little as well. But I mean, I think the music videos are a must. You know, I think people are right now, they're listening to their music with their eyes, you know, and I can't say that I blame them. It's the first thing that any of us do when we I don't, you know, whatever. If Kansas has a new, or whoever has a brand new song, you're going right to YouTube and you're putting it in and you want to see what it's all about, you know. So it's a very important tool. Fortunately, it's a lot more affordable than it used to be, as you know, because back, you know, in the 80s or 90s, whatever, if you didn't have a deal with Atlantic Records and the $500,000 budget, you were not getting a video, you know. So now you could take your iPhone and go make a video. Still, we try to hold the quality way up. If you take a look at the videos, you'll see the quality still there. So, you know, I think it's just an important part and a must of what music is doing right now. And you want to be visually out there because everybody's, like I said, everybody's grabbing their phone or their iPad or the computer or whatever it is. And that's where they're seeing and hearing the music for the first time.
The second disc in the collection here has reworked Riot classics, from Rock City to Swords of Tequila to Don't Hold Back. It's in your own voice, but you still play it loyal to the original classics. Was that kind of important to you and Riot Act as a group?
Yes, actually, it was extremely important to me. I think at times, you know, people think it's very close to Guy Speranza, God rest his soul, in regard to the attack and the way I'm going about it. And it's not like, I'm not trying to copy, obviously, but I certainly paid attention to the delivery and the mannerisms and the way in which Guy sang the songs originally. And I thought that would be the best tribute to do for him, you know, and you know, towards his art and his craft. And myself loving his delivery and the way he went about it, it just made sense that not reinvent the wheel on this, just to pay tribute, still sound like myself, but pay attention to the inflections and the mannerisms and the delivery so that the articulation would be correct.
When these songs originally came out, it was the late 70s and the early 80s. What were you doing music-wise back then, if anything? I mean, you could have been in high school for all I know.
Wait a minute, I was born in '87. No, just, well, I'm a '70s brat in regard to music. I mean, to me, it's like the music from the '70s is my big inspiration as a songwriter, even as a fan, whatever it may be. Those productions, and it could be anything from pop to rock to anything in between. Those productions were so powerful and so well done in the '70s that they just stick. You know, I mean, no matter what it is. And so in the '70s, I would say I was getting my chops together or learning, you know. In the '80s, I was trying to do like everybody else with the hair bands, you know, the big hair and spandex and all that kind of stuff. But so it played out a lot in the '80s and stuff like that. But '70s is where I think I was letting all that music infiltrate and learn how to play it and what have you, and learn how to sing it. And so that's a very big inspiration to me musically as a songwriter and as a singer and guitar player.
If the album does well, gets a good response, is there a possibility of a vinyl version of the album in keeping with that 70s vibe?
Absolutely. Truthfully, we wanted the vinyl at the same time as the CD came out. But I'm sure you know in the industry right now, the vinyl is on heavy back order. But we definitely want a nice big red disc of Riot Act, Closer to the Flame. So that one is, they're even speaking about it now as we discuss it. But we'll see as soon as we can get the vinyl in. That'll be certainly be on my wall for sure at the studio.
And you said that you got your record deal with Global Rock Records through your manager. Was there any special story behind that?
I'd have to say, again, yes, Giles Lavery is our manager, and he, he took us through this whole week. That was very devastating, as the whole situation at the beginning of the band, and he stuck with us, and that certainly meant a lot to us. So when he was placing us or trying to get us, a deal, we knew that he had our best interest in mind. So, when he came to us with the news that he got us on Global Rock, we were ecstatic, and truthfully right now, like you said, the album's been out a few days in the UK, not here in the States yet. Here in the States, it comes out on the 15th, which is also when that Closer to the Flame video comes out on the 15th to support it. And already there's great press everywhere. And so I'd have to say, Global Rock is doing a great job. Yeah.
You guys are going to be heading out on tour with Lillian Axe in August. You're going to be heading out with Heavy Pettin in September. Have you ever played with either of these bands before?
Have not played with them. Listen to their music, outstanding bands, right? Polished on every level, obviously. And we are certainly looking forward to playing with them. There's no doubt about that. There's, I believe there's talks right now in regard to some US dates coming up with perhaps different bands as well. Right now, like I said, we were set to go to Greece at the early part of 2020. Once that was changed, we've been sitting back and waiting. So like you said, in August when we first come out, that'll be the first time the band comes out playing live.
Have you been on the stage yet since everything started opening back up, either with Riot Act or another band you might be associated with?
No, at this point, truthfully, once we got the deal, I think in the middle of the pandemic, and at that point, it was a very tall order to deliver 22 songs, in the studio, number one, to record them and mix them and get them, master them and get them ready. And then subsequently to have the music videos prepared. So there's been a tremendous amount of workload just to handle what's going on musically, so we haven't hit the stage, to answer your question, but rehearsals now start and we prepare obviously for the tour of the summer. So we'll be able to focus on it's not like, sometimes a band's in the rehearsal studio and they also have to prepare for the recording and what have you. But the bottom line is we are strictly at this point, once we finish this next music video, rehearsals start and we'll be getting ready, for the shows completely.
Are you still working with Dan Spitz on a project, or has that been put aside since you got the Riot Act gig?
Oh, so you've done your homework there, my friend.
I always do my homework.
Well, then let me ask you this. You're in Massachusetts, right?
Yes.
So Danny and I haven't worked together. He was in Voices of Extreme for a while. He was the original producer for Voices of Extreme. And when we talk about Massachusetts, Voices of Extreme was, that was like our second home. So that's where we played with Derek Drown and all those guys. And we had Nico McBrain there with us on stage with us. We did some festivals and stuff. So Massachusetts is was like our second home. But I haven't, Danny and I did some work together after that. And then I think he went back to Florida. So I haven't seen him since, but he's still a brother.
So Voices of Extreme, Massachusetts being your home, whereabouts did you play in the Boston area? Or were you more the Worcester type, or were you more down the Cape?
Let's see, how do I answer this? I don't really know all of them. So when you said Worcester, no doubt we were there. Alan, but anyway, I forgot what all of it. It was quite a long time ago, but
Sure.
It was local bazooka. Do you remember that? Do you know those?
Oh guys? Yeah. That was WBCN.
Yeah. And what's the big radio station, the rock station in Boston that used to WRC, not RC.
Well, there was WAAF and there was WBCN.
Yes. So WAAF, we've been on there with Nico McBrain calling in, and it was a lot of fun. So we were there. It felt like every other week. But so yeah, great stuff. But I think it's the Worcester. I think is that how you say that, by the way, John? It's,
Worcester.
Worcester. Got it. Okay.
Most people say Worcester.
Yeah. I mean, being New Yorkers, we felt like we were right at home, except for except for when we walked into like the sports things and we seen like no Yankee signs. No.
Yeah, you could get by with your accent, but you're not getting by with your Yankees.
Yeah, I know that. I found that out.
It's our music video with Voices of Extreme. You covered Foolish Beat by Debbie Gibson. Fantastic song, by the way. Debbie doesn't appear on the actual song. She's just in the video.
See that? Isn't that cool? Right. So Debbie was, I was working with Debbie in the studio on one of her projects that she was doing. And she was familiar with our stuff. And she said, Don, I always wanted a rock band to do one of my songs. I said, yeah, sounds great. I would love to. She goes, would you do like Foolish Beat? I think she's in the Hall of Fame or whatever it is, the Book of Records in regard to being the youngest person to ever write a #1 hit. I think that's the song or something like that. And so of course, I was flattered and I said yes immediately. Now, after she left, then I said, okay, well, how do I make a rock band make a song that was scripted for, I think she was probably in her teens at that point, a young lady in her teens, knocking it out of the park, right? And you said, how do we make this sound legit, in regard to that style of music? So it took a little bit of doing. And I do remember when we first presented it to her, I mean, she was blown away. So as a favor back to us, her manager, Heather Moore, is a dear friend of mine as well. And as a favor back to us, like I said, she said she would star in the video with us, which I thought was absolutely awesome. I mean, so it's really wild. It's her song from when she was a kid, which was a #1 smash, and you get a rock band covering it on a video, and then she's in the video like whatever, 30 years later, whatever. So it was pretty neat.
You were also in a band with Billy Sheehan and Rod Morgenstein from Winger. And I only found a couple singles, so I'm assuming that's not anything that's continuing.
Well, you have done your homework, my friend. God bless you. All right, so the name of that band is Road Crew that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And you'll see online, I think we do a rendition of Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. I would say that is an ongoing band. Yes, because it's a dear friend of mine, Joe Cangemi, he's the leader of that band. When he called me up and said, hey, do you want to sing in this band Road Crew I got going? I have Billy Sheehan on bass and Rod Morgenstein on the drums. I was like, are you serious? Is this, you're talking about a rhythm section that is, Billy Sheehan's one of the greatest on the planet. Rod Morgenstein, also one of the greatest on the planet. So of course I said yes. And before you know it, we did a few songs. And I would say that's continuing, but it's not so much like, a band where it's like, working every day in the studio. That'll probably be more like, a couple of songs here and there, going forward, whatever it may be.
You're obviously a veteran in the music scene for a couple decades at this point. Are there any other bands that you auditioned for that just didn't work out?
Not so much didn't work out. I mean, I got a chance, it's probably not even documented that much online, but when you say Danny Spitz, that'll bring up my other friend's name. It's Dave Mustaine, obviously. So I don't know if you know that or not, but Dave and Danny had a project together, and it's called Red Lamb, which Dave and Danny wrote the songs and Dave produced with Danny. And I'm the lead singer on that record. So I got a chance to go to Dave Mustaine's studio and hang out with him and work with him, Danny and I on that album. So I think there's one music video out there right now online to support it, but it's a much heavier style of singing than I was used to. But again, a great challenge. And I remember Dave Mustaine's producing your vocal, you listen. So and I remember him just, working with me, side by side and where I could get the articulation and the delivery, like he was mentoring me to do so. And I think we nailed it on that album. It's very to the point on the music and the style that they were trying to portray for that particular album.
And Dave's pretty picky on who he produces. He doesn't produce a lot of albums.
I remember him saying, Donnie, he goes, this is what I do. This is how I sing. This is the way I'm producing. I said, okay, I'm listening. So if Dave speaks, I'm listening. So, and then, I'd be in the recording studio with him, and then you'd see, between him and Danny, I forgot how many, I think it was like 60 million albums sold between the two of them. So at that point, it's best to listen and be like, the grasshopper, yes, whatever.
Oh, Don, that's all I got for you today. The new album is Closer to the Flame. It's by Riot Act. It sounds great. I had a chance to listen to it, and I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate you having me, and I look forward to seeing you in Massachusetts with Riot Act. We're coming up.
That's right. I'll see you up in Worcester.
Worcester.
But no Yankees hats. Don't bring them.
No. We'll bring the Boston hats.
All right, man.
As soon as we get out of New York, we'll put them on, though, okay?
There you go.
All right. Thanks, my friend.
All right, man. Take it easy. Once again, I want to thank Don Chaffin of Riot Act for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out Riot Act's latest album, Closer to the Flame. You can stream it now on your favorite streaming platform. When you're done checking it out, if you like it, make sure to go out and buy a physical copy. Support the artist. You can find all things Riot Act at riotactband.com. If you want to find out more about Don and his other projects, head over to donchaffin.com. I also want to thank John Lappin of Lappin Enterprises for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne, and I'll see you again soon.